What's up YouTube, True Evil here, back with another Neverness to Everness character guide. Today, we will be showcasing Chiz, who, once you raise your Tycoon level enough to get a few dupes of her for free, she will be the strongest main DPS in the entire game for 1.0. Although she is the strongest, you need to know how to play her correctly because her DPS suffers tremendously if you don't understand her kit. So without further ado, let's explain how Chiz works, then we're going to talk about her best team composition and why, and then we're going to explain the rotation so you can maximize your damage potential with Chiz Mommy. The reason why Chiz is a little bit difficult to learn how to play initially is that her skill description is a little convoluted, so I'm going to be showing you how it works with examples in game, but the main takeaways that you're going to want out of the skill and ultimate descriptions is that she cannot crit on her damage, and how she does most of her damage is going to be through fixed damage, which we're going to explain how to amplify through the examples of her skill, which is basically 4 skills in one. The first thing you need to know is how Chiz does her fixed damage. If you look above her HP bar, there is a money meter, which all you need to know is that the number is her fixed damage amount that she can do, and then it's lowered by the enemy's defense and things like that. Essentially, playing Chiz is a mini game of getting rich with that sweet guap guap, and you are trying to not go negative because then her damage becomes, well, trash. The way you increase fawns is through basic attacks, her skill variations when the ultimate is up, and a stocks mechanic through her ultimate. When Chiz uses her ultimate, another bar appears which if you do damage while it is above the line, you gain money, and when it is below, you lose money. All you need to know is that when you ultimate, you want to use your skills on the gains and avoid the skill below the line because you will lose money and therefore damage over time. The reason she is the best DPS in 1.0 is the more dupes you get for her, the quicker the money goes up, and after a little bit of charging, she pops off majorly. Before we get into how to build her team in ideal rotations though, let me explain the skill a little bit because you can essentially make your Chiz do like no damage at all if you don't understand the skill. Basically, there are 3 charges to the skill. You can either tap it for 1 instance of damage, hold it to spin, or press it multiple times for up to a 3 attack combo. The most important thing to know is in the 3 skill combo, the second move is a spin, and if you hold the spin down for more than 1 instance of damage, or just hold the skill down without this combo, not only are you going to lose fawns you gathered, but you are going to go negative most likely, and essentially get your DPS to become, well, ineffective. Therefore, I never really recommend holding this button down unless if you just need to finish the mobs really quickly and they're at like below 10% HP. Now that we know how Chiz functions, let's talk about how to build Chiz as well as her optimal team and why and how to build that team, because it's a little bit different than what you would expect. For her arc, you do get her signature arc for free with Tycoon levels, so you're definitely going to want to make sure you have Contemplative Cat. Now, the main thing you need to know about this arc is that she increases her Cosmos damage by the amount of fawns you have in your inventory, so you need to make sure you always have just like a surplus of 1,000,000 fawns to make sure Chiz is doing maximum damage. So make sure you don't buy like a 2,000,000 fawns car before you go and fight some bosses with her because it's going to affect her damage majorly. And then for her console, you're going to want to get Lost Radiance because she is a Cosmos main damage dealer, and this is the Cosmos damage console. The only thing you really need to know about this is for sub stats, you do not want crit rate and crit damage because she can't crit on her main skills that do a ton of damage. You're going to want mainly universal damage bonus for those. And you see that I do have crit rate and crit damage, and that's just because we're in the first 2 weeks. I got a Lost Radiance that has a main stat of Cosmos damage, and I am going to full send that right now because most of my things are like Cosmos damage console that main attribute is incantation damage and things like that. So, you know, Once you get a good main stat, full send, it doesn't matter. As long as it's like attack percent or cosmos damage, that's the main thing right now because we are in those early stages. For Chiz's optimal team to support her, you're going to want to focus on the charge reaction because charge is going to allow you to ultimate more, and therefore it's going to have more uptime on Lost Radiance for Chiz to give her that defense ignore, as well as it's going to just allow her to get those loans to increase her fixed damage amount in case if you lost some cash by holding down her skill. And the best anima character for her team is going to be Ju Yuan because of that sweet crown control. If you don't have Ju Yuan, it's perfectly okay. You're just going to miss out on some crowd control. If you don't have her, Nonali is a perfectly fine replacement as well as Mint. For Ju Yuan's best arc, though, you're going to want to get her signature weapon, which you get from beating Swallowtail. And for console, you're going to get the anima one. I would say that even though Ju Yuan is such an invaluable unit, you're not missing out on too much using Nonali instead. It's just the crowd control is going to be really noticeable if you're using this for mobs, but on bosses, it's not going to be as noticeable using someone like Mint or Nonali. Besides Ju Yuan, you're really going to want to use the main character with Chiz for a couple of reasons, with one being she's just going to allow reactions to happen quicker, so charge is going to be more frequent, therefore ultimate is going to be more frequent. But besides that, she has excellent charge efficiency with day off, and her console is going to be essential because we're not using Hanyul on this team, and she's going to allow us to have access to Speedy Hedgehog. And the great thing with Speedy Hedgehog with her is that she does get her damage increase off type 3 modules, and every module to make the Speedy Hedgehog increase its effects is going to be a type 3 module, so she's going to maximize her damage more with Speedy Hedgehog than Lost Radiance, and she doesn't get value from that 20-second defense ignore for herself since she's mainly in just cause reactions much more fluidly. So day off for her weapon and Speedy Hedgehog for her console. Now, for the final unit, we're going to want to have a Lakshana unit to have the charge reaction going. And you might just think that Hathor is the best slot for this, but it's actually not the case because if you go to Hathor's arcs, she doesn't have any that provide any support skills. And we want a support Lakshana because our main DPS is going to be Chiz. And Hathor sort of needs to be focused around the burst DPS to really get the maximum potential out of her. So actually Skia is the best because he is a gas type, which means he has access to Good Boy's Grand Adventure, which is going to give you that team attack bonus after he ultimates, and as well as charge efficiency. So you basically only use Skia to do the charge reaction, get the team attack bonus, and switch immediately out. And that's really, really nice. But the problem is we're at that beginning of the game where we're on week 2, so not everyone's going to have resources to build. So personally, because I did pull Hathor, I am going to use Hathor on this team. Even though it isn't ideal, it's better to just focus on building the unit that's going to give you the most value with the most teams possible, instead of just the ideal character in every role, in my personal opinion. But if you don't have Hathor, Skia is definitely going to be better, so you are in luck. Now, this is her optimal team rotation. The start is going to be with the main character, which you're going to ultimate, because if you do the main skill then ultimate, it might knock some of the mobs out of the way. And because we're switching into Ju Yuan next, we want them to be nice and close so we can crowd control them. So ultimate, then do the main skill, switch into Ju Yuan to trigger Blossom, and then use her skill plus ultimate to group them together nicely and do some damage. Then we're going to switch into Chiz, and we're not going to ultimate immediately. What we're doing here is some basic attacks and skills to just charge up her meter, and we're waiting for the main character's main skill to go off of cooldown. Once it has, you're going to switch back to the main character, use the skill skill, and then instantly switch into either Skia or Hathor to have charge pop off, and then you're going to ultimate and switch into Chiz. Then at this point, we're going to ultimate with Chiz, and because of that charge reaction, we're going to be building ultimate up as we start her main DPS. And as you can see, she's already doing a lot of damage, and after the second ult, she's going to consistently be doing 20,000 on her skills. So here we're going to just be main DPSing and waiting for Ju Yuan to have her reaction ready. Then we're going to switch into Ju Yuan, do her crowd control skill, then ultimate, then switch into the main character, and then ultimate plus main skill. And if the ultimate isn't up, we're just going to main skill, because we're mainly just going for another charge reaction. So after the main character main skill, switch into Skia or Hathor, ultimate if you can, but we just want the charge reaction, and switch back into Chiz and start main DPSing again. And then we're going to just repeat this pattern over and over again until we have beaten the video game. So I hope you enjoyed my Chiz team guide. Let me know in the comments if this helped you out in any way, as well as let me know which other characters you want to see a team guide from in the future. Catch you guys next time with another Neverness to Everness video.